I'm going to be teaching you a workout that, in my opinion, is a kind workout to the body. It helps you maintain mobility in all the major joints in the body. So it's great for flexibility training, mobility training, and we'll get a bit of core activation as well. You'll need a ball. If you don't have a ball, you can substitute this with a cushion for most of the exercises, or do the exercises without a ball. You'll still get the benefit of the workout. So for now, we're just going to leave the ball at the side, and we're just going to come onto our mat. So hold on to the back of your legs, round your spine, and use your abdominal strength to come down onto the mat. So once you're down on the mat, we're going to spend a few moments just checking in with alignment. So you want your heels in line with the sit bones, weight underneath the three corners of your feet. Just checking that your eye gaze is forwards at the ceiling in front of you. Ribs are closed, so you feel the back ribs are contacting the mat. And just checking in with your pelvis, your neutral pelvis. So create your pelvic triangle shape with your hands, place it over the three bony landmarks at the front of your pelvis, and just adjust your pelvis into those three bones are level and your pelvic triangle is square to the ceiling. So this is the neutral position of the pelvis. As you know, the spine stacks itself from the pelvis. Once we've organised the pelvis, the ribcage, the head and the neck, your body is as close to its neutral alignment as your spine allows. So this is the place where the spine is in its strongest position. So now we've found our optimal alignment, we're going to focus on breath. So place your hands on your ribs and just slide your hands out to the sides of your rib cage. And then just spend a few moments breathing deep and full into the back and into the sides of your rib cage. On your inhalation, you're looking to feel the expansion of your rib cage. On your exhalation, you're trying to feel the narrowing of the rib cage. Now, as you focus on using your breath to bring movement into the ribs, I'd like you to have an awareness of your pelvic floor and your deep abdominals. So the pelvic floor, I want you to visualise the four bony landmarks at the bottom of the pelvis. So we've got the pubic bone, which is the bone right between your legs at the front of the pelvis, the coccyx, which is adjacent to the pubic bone, and then your two sit bones. Now on your out breath, gently lift up on your pelvic floor as though you're trying to narrow those four bones towards one another. And then find the navel to spine connection to engage your deep abdominals, and then keeping your breath in your rib cage above your belly button so that you can maintain the control of your deep core muscles. So just staying with the breath, just allowing your arms to naturally find their place at the side of the body. And on your out breath, gently rock your pelvis backwards, tipping your triangle to your chest, using your in-breath to release the pelvis back to neutral. So always aiming to do this with as little effort as possible so you feel the work the lower abdominals have to do to gently round your lower back into the mat and just allowing your neutral pelvis to come from the release of your backwards tilt. So we're just warming up through that lower back, taking each backwards tilt as an opportunity to stretch through that lower back. Now allow that pelvis to settle in its neutral position and have a strong awareness of what that position feels like, and then bring your mobility into the shoulders. So arms reach up directly over the shoulders, and on the in-breath I want you to lift the back of the shoulders off the mat to protract the shoulder blades, using that out-breath to bring the back of the shoulders onto the mat to retract the shoulder blades. So again, we want to keep the head and rib cage nice and heavy on the mat so we don't feel any tension through the neck here. We're just articulating the shoulder blades on the rib cage and just allowing the arms to follow the articulation of the shoulder blades, just increasing blood flow to the muscles that support the shoulder blades on the ribs. Now allow them to gently retract into the mat, so we're not jamming them into the mat, but just kissing the mat. And then on your in-breath, I want you to open your arms out to the side walls, stretch from fingertips to fingertips, using the out-breath to reach your arms back up to the ceiling. And again, you can choose a breathing pattern that works for you. I'm just offering the breath that facilitates movement, so we always get more expansion on that inhalation, and I'm using every opportunity, every opening of the arms as an opportunity to really stretch through the chest muscles. Now keep those arms open now. I call this the T position, and then bring your feet together and your knees together. So without losing the connection between the feet and the knees, I want you to rotate your pelvis and legs to the right, so you're twisting from your waist and your middle back, coming back to the centre, and then changing sides. Your range of motion should be as big or as small as you can keep the opposite shoulder blade down on the mat. So on the rotation, you're not allowing that shoulder to lift up. And focus on minimising the sliding of the feet and the knees. So minimal sliding of the feet and the knees indicates that you're working well from your abdominals to rotate the pelvis and the legs. And then on the return, I want you to feel that you're gently drawing back through the rib cage to initiate the return of the legs. So we really want to focus on working from the centre here. Now for me, because this workout is about flexibility today and mobility, I want you to focus on lengthening the side that you're rotating away from, taking an in-breath into that top side, using that out-breath to bring those legs back to the centre. If you can challenge this more, lift one leg to tabletop and then deepen that back body into the mat to lift that second leg up, doing exactly the same exercise with the legs lifted. So when the legs are lifted, we're simply putting a bit more load through the torso, which challenges the abdominals to control the spine. Seeing if you can get those legs a little bit further each time, but just working to your point of control. So remember, that's the place where we keep our opposite shoulder down on the mat. So I like to add a little bit more weight through the torso because it allows me to traction my stretch a little bit more on the side that I'm rotating away from. Keeping that navel pulling into the spine to support the spine. So we're just going to make this one the last one, and then coming back to the centre. Taking the feet down and just bringing the arms to the side of the body. So again, just checking in with that neutral pelvis again, so we know where that place is. We're going to do some leg slides. So the objective with this exercise is to keep the ribs close, so nice and heavy on the mat, and the pelvis stable. And all that's going to happen here is you're going to slide one leg away from you, only going as far as you can keep the pelvis and spine still and stable, and then bringing that leg back in, and then changing sides. Now as the leg reaches away, the weight of that leg creates an extension force through the spine. It's trying to arch you back away from the mat, so you've got to stay strong in your abdominals to resist that. And if we can create that stability through that centre, it gives the hip and leg muscles something to reach away from, so we get that length through the front of the hip. Now by keeping your foot on the floor, that allows us to access the abdominals a little bit more, so we can work deeper into the abdominals to get that nice length through the front of the hip. So that's what I'm working on today when I do this exercise. Now next time you reach the leg out, we're going to hold it there, and I want you to hold the opposite knee into your chest. So really lengthening through the glutes, keeping the back of the shoulder down, back of the shoulders down the mat. And the leg is straight. See if you can reach the back of that thigh close to the mat. So I want to really contract the front of my thigh to do that. And then like we practiced with our breath, I want you to rock your pelvis backwards, tipping your triangle to your chest. So you really find what I call the pubic bone to belly button connection, and then just release your pelvis back to neutral. So we've just added the pelvic tilt to this. Now every time you tilt your pelvis backwards, you should feel that you're gently lengthening further through the front of the hips. So we're using an abdominal contraction now to stretch those tight hip flexors. And it's going to prepare us for the shoulder bridge exercise, so we get a little bit more range through the lift of the hips. Just one more here. Slide that straight leg in and then switching sides. Again, checking that stability, keeping the rib to hip connection, and then pulling the knee in. So back to the shoulders down. So I'm working first on trying to reach the back of the thigh down into the mat. And if you're really tight through the front of the hip, that might be a big challenge. And then you're going to tip your pelvis back and then release. So if your hip flexors are already on full stretch, you might find that there's not a lot of movement with that pelvic tilt, but the benefits are in the trying here. Just by focusing on drawing that pubic bone up, you're going to get a little bit more length through the front of the hip. And if you're really working to reach the back of your thigh downwards into the mat, you're doing two things that help you stretch through the front of the hip. So releasing that pelvis and then bending your knee in. So from here we're going to go into the shoulder bridge. So we're going to initiate this from the pelvis, so tipping the triangle to the chest and then peeling the spine away from the mat, one bone by one. And I know what my body normally feels like with this exercise, so by stretching the front of the hips, It's just allowing me to get a little bit higher, which allows me to get more into my bottom. And then slowly rolling down, bringing down the back of the chest, back of the ribs, back of the waist, pelvis comes down, and then release. So we're going to do one more like this, just getting a feel for the segmental control that the abdominals have of the spine, so that ability to roll up one bone by one, and then on the way down, rolling down one bone by one. So the key here is, again, it's that pubic bone to belly button connection. So we're going to grab the ball now, so I know that I've left mine behind me. So just using that bridge to pop the ball underneath the pelvis, and then just allowing the spine to roll down until the pelvis is resting on the ball. So just releasing that pelvis to neutral, so you feel that the air in the ball is squished out evenly in each direction. The ribs are still reaching downwards when that pelvis is in its neutral position. So I'm just going to do some pelvic tilts on the ball. So on the out breath, tipping your triangle to your chest, using that in breath to release your pelvis back to neutral. So I like to feel I'm squishing the air in the ball towards my feet on that backwards tilt, and then as I release to neutral, the air in the ball squishes out evenly in each direction. And then keeping that neutral pelvis, so I've got a strong awareness of where that place is, and going back to those leg slides. So as I do this, I'm really working hard in my abdominals to keep that pelvis stable, and then trying to think of reaching the back of the thigh downwards to the mat without losing the control of the rib cage or the pelvis, and then sliding back in. Now, because the ball is underneath the pelvis, the foot has got further to go to reach the floor, so the hip flexors have to lengthen more to allow that to happen. So those of you with really tight hip flexors, this is a really great way of releasing through the front of the hip. And often that can also help alleviate a tight lower back, because the muscles through the front of the hip go into the lower back. So next time when I slide out, actually I'm going to work a little bit more equally here. So when my first leg goes back out, I'm going to stay there, and I'm going to revisit that pelvic tilt. So trying to squish the air in the ball towards my feet, and then release. So again, I'm using that abdominal contraction to deepen the hip flexor stretch. I'm using the deficit that the ball creates to deepen that hip flexor stretch. And I'm using my hip extensors as well. I'm thinking of the back of my thigh reaching downwards towards the mat. And it's quite a gratifying stretch with the front of the hip. So changing legs, we don't have to do loads of these. It's just a nice release, and we're getting some good abdominal work out of this as well. So one more here, and again the ribs stay still, and the hip flexor stretch is coming from the contraction of the abs and the reach down of the back of the thigh. So when the leg comes in, lift the hips carefully, and as you roll down, you should notice a sense of freedom through that lower back. So from here, rolling onto your side, and you're just going to push yourself up to sitting. So again, we're going to use the ball for this. You're going to pop the ball as close to your bottom hip as you can. So it feels like it's under the meaty part of your waist. And we're going to take the legs into what I call 90-90. So the front leg is bent at 90 degrees to the body, and the back leg is. And we want to feel that nice openness through the front of the hip. And then sliding that bottom arm along the floor, body nice and square. So I'm just allowing my body to contour the shape of a ball. And because the ball is underneath me, it's creating a little bit more length through the top waist and the top hip. So I'm going to try and reach my top knee, so the knee that belongs to that back leg, I'm reaching it down into the mat. And that's, for me, because I'm really tight for the IT band, the outer hip, I'm getting quite a stretch there. The ball is deepening that stretch. And then just adding some breath to this. So on the in breath, reaching the top arm overhead. Out breath, bringing the arm down. So I'm working here to reach my knee down into the mat. I'm also thinking of lifting my ribs up a little away from the mat as well. So the action of doing that engages the abdominals, and that's going to give you a deeper stretch down that top side. Now on this one, we're going to keep the arm overhead and add some rotation to this. So rotating the chest bone forwards, and then rotating the chest bone backwards.
So when I do this, I like to use my in-breath here and really breathe into the back ribs, my out-breath here, and I'm trying to really reach that top knee down. So I'm just exploring those tight spots in my body that changes as my body changes direction. Trying to relax the neck, which can be a little tricky. So just one more here, and then we'll do that on the other side. And then pushing up. So swiveling the legs around, guys. So we make a smooth transition. So again, let's find that 90-90 in the legs, popping the ball underneath the bottom waist, and then sliding your arm along the mat. So just be careful that that back knee doesn't start to come forwards, because we want the front of the hip in a lengthened position, but you've got to meet where your body is at with this, and try and find that same abdominal contraction that we had on the ball. Again, this side for me is a little bit tighter, so you might be able to see that my top knee can't quite reach the floor here. Using that in-breath to reach the arm over, the out-breath to bring the arm to the side of the body. So just trying to reach a little bit deeper into the stretch each time. And I'm trying to reach my top arm and my top knee oppositionally as I do this. Really focusing on stretching from the elbow into the waist. And then finding that rotation as I do it. So guys, because we're really focusing on stretching, I'm not too fussy if that top shoulder lifts up into your ear, because mine is doing that and it's giving me a gratifying stretch. What's important here is that we're not arching the spine in order to roll backwards, and we're not rounding the spine to rotate forwards. So one more, I'm trying to stretch through the front of the hip here, opening up through the front ribs, and then the back ribs as I rotate forwards. So coming up to sitting. Okay, so we'll just pop the ball by the feet for now, and we're going to do the roll back. So the pelvis should be a lot more mobile, really sitting tall on top of the pelvis, lovely straight spine. So I'm using my arms to pull against my legs to lift my spine up taller, and then lifting the pelvic floor away from the mat. So moving from the pelvis, you're going to rock your pelvis backwards, again that same pubic bone to belly button contraction, and then slowly rolling back onto the pelvis, and then to roll up, chest bone rounds forwards to come upwards, and then lift the spine up. So rep number 2, we're going to go a little bit further and see if you can get the back of the waist rounding into the mat. So we should be quite warm through those abdominals, through that lower back. And again, we want to make sure we're not pulling the spine forwards by pushing the head forwards, lifting tall. Now we're going to go for a little bit of a hamstring stretch. So we're going to go for straight legs. So we're first of all rolling backwards. When the legs are straight, if you are really tight here, guys, it can be quite challenging to tip your pelvis back. So if you need to bend your legs as you roll back, allow yourself to do that. But we're going to round forwards. And if you were choosing the bend leg option, straighten those legs. And we're going to try and bend forwards, reach for the feet if we can. Now, I like to play with my foot position here. So in that bent forward position, I try and pull my feet upwards from the ankles, really stretching through the backs of the legs. And then as you point the feet, notice how that changes the tensioning of those hamstrings. And then relax feet rolling up. And we'll do that just one more time, guys. So we get the abdominal strength work on that roll back. So really deepening into those abdominals. And I'm not going all the way down. I just want to get that mobility through my lower back. And then as I come forwards, I want to get that stretch through the backs of the legs, improving hip flexibility. So again, playing with the feet. So because my flexibility allows me to bend forwards, I can use my hands to pull my feet upwards. But if you're not there, then just hold onto the back of the legs and then just flex your feet and then point your feet and just feel how that changes the dynamic of your stretch. It's a stronger stretch when the feet are here, and then rolling up. So we're going to start to lengthen through the front of the spine now, guys. So we'll grab the ball, pop it underneath the shoulders, and find that neutral pelvis. Interlocking your hands. And then on your in-breath, I want you to reach your chest bone backwards over the ball, and then using that out-breath to curl up. So the range of motion, guys, wants to be as big or as small as you can keep your pelvis still, so the space underneath your lower back shouldn't really change. And then to initiate coming up, you nod the chin a little bit, but ribs drop down to lift the head and chest up. So each repetition, I think we're trying to contour the shape of the ball with the upper spine, but I'm really focusing on the stability through the pelvis and the neck. So if we can keep the pelvis and the neck stable, we optimise the movement in the ribcage part of the spine, and that improves mobility in that mid-upper back area, and we're stretching the front of the spine every single time we bend backwards. Now, if your body allows, you're going to bend back and stay back, and release your head down on the floor. Now, if I'm doing this, your neck is excessively bent and that brings pressure through the neck, you could put a cushion or a towel underneath your head to alleviate that. So the neck needs to be comfortable. Now turn your palms forwards, and we're going to do a rowing motion. So you're going to bend your elbows out to the sidewalls and downwards to the floor, and then reach up to the ceiling. So we're leading this movement from the elbows, but every time I bend, I'm thinking of reaching my elbows away from the centre of my body. Again, the ball is underneath the rib cage, so because the ball is there, all the muscles at the front of my torso are in a lengthened position, and the action of rowing further lengthens those muscles. So it's quite a deep stretch for the front of the torso, but wonderful if you're working at a desk all day. It really opens up that chest. Now we're going to keep those elbows bent, and then you're going to rotate the lower arms backwards. So that's palms facing the ceiling, and then rotate forwards. So really just bring some rotation at the shoulders. The challenge here is to keep those elbows where they are in relation to the floor, so they don't start to lift higher. Now rotate backwards and stay back. Now if you are flexible enough for your elbows to find the floor, which many of us aren't, then try and keep your elbows on the floor as you reach your arms back, and then bend your elbows again. So this is a big stretch for the chest, it's a big stretch for the muscles down the sides of the body. But again, it's a wonderful feeling when you're done. It's one of those bittersweet exercises when you're in the middle of it. I'm going to make this one the last one. You're just going to bring your arms to the sides of your body and then just carefully roll off onto your side. We're going to put the ball down and then we're going to go into swan. So just roll onto your belly. So arms are going to be bent at the side of your body. And we've really opened up the chest now and the hips, preparing for our swan movement. So find that slight pubic bone to belly button. Feel that your lower abdomen is the lightest part of your spine on the mat, and we've got energy in the legs. Shoulders lengthen away from the ears, head lifts, and then you're going to reach your chest bone forwards and upwards. And then just inviting yourself to come up a little bit higher, just feeling where your body can go with that, and then coming back down. And if that felt kind to your spine and you feel that you can do more, we're going to do full range of motion. We're finding that back bend in the upper spine, and then use the strength of your arms to push yourself higher, only coming up as high as your spine allows, and then coming back down one bone by one. So make a meal of finding that back bend in the upper spine first, so that you're evenly distributing those extension forces through the whole of the spine. So we're not just hinging from that lower back when we do this. So again, it's a wonderful stretch from the front of the torso, really working to the front of the hips as well here, and then coming back down. Okay, and then just pushing back through the hands, rounding up into your cat, and then sitting back onto your heels, having a nice stretch. And then you're just going to walk your hands on a diagonal. Because I've got this table here, I can walk, really hold on to the sides of the table and feel that I'm pulling my hips on the opposite diagonal to the direction my arms are reaching. And that gives me a really good stretch. And then coming to the centre and then changing sides. So thinking of my arms reaching on one diagonal, my hips pulling back on the other diagonal, contracting my abdominals, and then rolling up. And hopefully you feel more mobile.